Imagine a world where the very foundations of your belief are shaken, where the familiar comfort of faith is challenged by a chilling specter of deception. What if the heroes you admire, the very actors who embody strength and conviction on screen, were unknowingly portraying a narrative that mirrors the darkest prophecies? This is not fiction. This is a reality we must confront. In the coming moments, we will delve into a disturbing parallel, one that connects the cinematic portrayal of Denzel Washington's character in Gladiator 2 with a timeless battle between faith and falsehood. Prepare yourself to journey into a complex web of historical events, biblical prophecy, and a potential end-times scenario that may already be unfolding. This journey will be divided into 7 crucial chapters. It is imperative that you stay with us until the end, because the most shocking revelations and pivotal conclusions will be presented at the very end. Chapter 1: The Shadow of Macrinus. Denzel Washington's portrayal of Macrinus in the upcoming Gladiator sequel is far more than just another role for this iconic actor. Washington himself describes the character as someone who clawed his way from the bottom, a man who made a pact with darkness to achieve power, indicating a willingness to commit unspeakable acts. He stated that the darker aspects of Macrinus, which he depicted on the set, were considered too extreme for the final cut, a chilling testament to the character's malevolence. This portrayal, while fictional, resonates deeply with the historical figure of Macrinus, a Roman prefect whose actions had profound consequences for early Christians. In fact, it can be argued that the portrayal of Macrinus is a reflection of the power and oppression that the early church had to deal with. Chapter 2: Historical Echoes. The persecution begins. The real-life Macrinus, during his tenure as the prefect of the Praetorian Guard under Emperor Caracalla in AD 212, wielded immense power. This position put him at the very heart of the Roman Empire's power structure. Crucially, Caracalla's edict of that same year marked a brutal shift in Rome's religious tolerance. The edict, while seemingly extending Roman citizenship to free inhabitants, imposed a sinister obligation: participation in pagan practices and the worship of Roman deities. This decree was a direct affront to the monotheistic beliefs of Christians who refused to acknowledge the Roman pantheon and instead placed their faith and loyalty in Jesus. Their refusal to conform was considered an act of treason, leading to persecution and martyrdom. Many Bible scholars have suggested that these events were a foreshadowing of the last days. The connection between this historical persecution and the narrative of the film is too striking to ignore. The historical events suggest that this could happen again. Chapter 3: A Prophetic Mirror. The End Times Deception. The trials and tribulations of the early church during the reign of the Roman Empire, particularly the enforcement of pagan worship by figures like Macrinus, present a sobering parallel to the end times prophecies described in the book of Revelation. Revelation depicts a world system where the Antichrist, a figure of ultimate deception, demands worship and allegiance, much like the Roman emperors did. The book of Revelation warns that a global power will enforce a world religion, requiring all to take the mark of the beast to participate in society. Refusal will result in persecution. The parallels are chilling. The struggle of the early Christians is not just a historical event, it is a warning, an archetype of the spiritual battles that could unfold in our very near future. This should make every single Christian take notice of the events and make the needed adjustments in their lives. Chapter 4: The Beast's Blasphemy and Global Control. The book of Revelation vividly describes how the Antichrist, driven by Satan's malevolence, will blaspheme God, his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. This figure, unable to touch God or the saints who have passed on, resorts to eloquent deception to turn people away from the true faith in Jesus Christ. This spiritual warfare will culminate in the Antichrist's domination of the world. Revelation 13:7 states that authority is given to him over every tribe, tongue, and nation, indicating a global level of control, enforced through intimidation and persuasion. This terrifying vision of a world under satanic control is not just a distant prophecy. It could be a blueprint for the very events unfolding in front of our eyes. Chapter 5: Chains of Sin and the Illusion of Freedom. The story of Ellis Boyd Red Redding and the Shawshank Redemption serves as a poignant metaphor for the spiritual struggle that many Christians face. Just like Red, who was imprisoned for decades but longed to return, we as Christians often find ourselves drawn back to the very sins from which God has freed us. The desire for the familiar chains of sin, the temptation to return to worldly pleasures, can overshadow the freedom and transformation offered by faith. This is not to say that true believers who stumble are condemned, but it is a warning against complacency and turning away completely from God. This idea has also been seen in 1 Peter 2:20-21, where it warns those who once knew God and turned back that they will become worse than they were before. The allure of sin is a cunning trap that should be avoided at all cost. Chapter 6, Urgency and Preparation, the Thief in the Night. The call to vigilance, to be prepared for the Lord's return, resounds throughout the Scriptures. The Scriptures are very clear on the suddenness of Jesus' return. It will be like a thief in the night. Yet so many choose to live as if they have all the time in the world. They fall into the trap of complacency, choosing entertainment and earthly pursuits instead of spiritual growth and service. This is similar to the story of the child who is given instructions by his parents, but when they are away, he chooses to ignore everything that he was instructed to do. He waits until the very last minute to prepare for the parents' return. Similarly, Christians are warned to always be prepared for the return of Christ. We must live in a constant state of readiness, just as Matthew 24:42-44 instructs. Rather than waiting for the signs of the end times, we must live as if Jesus were returning today. Chapter 7. The Signs and the Ultimate Choice. While signs of the end times, such as the rise of the Antichrist, increases in war, famine, natural disasters, and celestial anomalies, are important to note, they should not be our primary focus. Matthew 24:42 and 44 emphasizes being ready at all times, and this can be done by living a godly life. The best way to prepare is to live as if Christ were coming today. This entails a life dedicated to reading the Word of God, sharing the gospel, serving others, and pursuing a closer relationship with God. The signs, like the prophecies that have been fulfilled throughout history, should serve as a guide, but it should not be our excuse for not living a life of dedication. The ultimate choice we face is whether we will be caught up with Christ or caught up in the world. We are told to chase what is eternal rather than being entangled in things that do not matter. Like the thief in the night, Jesus' coming will be unexpected, and we must prepare for that by living our lives like Christ. Unexpected conclusion. But what if the very narratives that are shaping our culture, the movies and stories we consume, are subtly preparing us for a great deception? What if the real-world events unfolding are not random, but rather pieces of a carefully orchestrated plan to lead people away from God? Consider how the characters we root for, such as the cunning Macrinus, might be unintentionally conditioning us to accept figures of authority who operate from a moral abyss. Are we being subtly acclimated to a world where evil is not only tolerated but admired? It's time for every Christian to step back from the entertainment and see what has been subtly shaping our beliefs. The true battle isn't happening only in the spiritual realm. It's also happening in our living rooms and on our screens. The connections between the portrayal of Macrinus, historical events, and biblical prophecy may seem unnerving. As stated before, it is crucial to examine the parallels, to understand the warnings, and to make the choice to follow Jesus. Thank you for staying with us on this important journey. It's critical that you remember what has been discussed in this video. The time to prepare is now. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video. Your engagement helps us spread this message to those who need to hear it.